Well,
Okay.
welcome everyone to our special meeting of the Darien Invasive Remediation Working Group on February 21st at 7 o'clock. I just confirmed with Pam before you joined, Joanne, that we've only spent $3,500 of the $8,000 that was allocated last year, so that we still have $4,500 to use up before July 1st. And Pam, as far as the next budget is concerned, we have how much to spend going forward into 23, 24?
Let's see, for invasives, I want to say that we settled and we asked for 20, nothing's set in stone because the budget has not been approved.
Okay,
So we asked for 20, I put in 16 to the commission and the commission upped it to 25. And Kate cut it back to, I believe, 18, either
Okay.
16 or 18, because there was no detailed backup as to what we would be, how would we be spending that.
okay, so that's pending.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll have a definite answer on that by when?
Not until, hi, Susan, we can hear you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm just
Yep.
going to mute myself now.
So we won't know until the budget is passed, and that would be in May, April or May. I think RTM May.
Okay,
But regardless, we wouldn't have that funding until July 1st anyhow.
okay. Well, I think the number one thing is we want to continue on with what we identified last year as far as Cherry Lawn was concerned. And that basically is to go after that whole area behind the gardens.
Right, Mary Louise, let's back up one just to go to, if we follow the agenda, to update on the removal of the various trees of heaven.
Okay,
So our guys have removed well over 20 of them. Various in Weed Beach, many in Cherry Lawn, and I believe they're staying at Weed Beach right now because Cherry Lawn's too wet to continue working in. But they have really done an amazing job identifying and removing. So I think, it's great to have Laura and Joanne here too, as well as Mary Louise and Susan too, but all of us, if we identify more that perhaps we haven't, just always bring it to our attention. Because our crew at this point will be working, when they have time in this mild winter, they'll just continue taking them down.
okay, now we still have that large one down at the Pear Tree.
Right. And so we had that quoted because our guys cannot do that big tree. They don't have the equipment for it. And that kind of, I don't know, I'm forgetting the word I want to use for it, but it's just in an odd space.
Correct. You've got that fence in front of it.
Yes.
And
so we're going to get another quote too. That was $2,600, $2,600 to $2,800 from this one vendor. But sometimes we get so prone to using the same vendor, we really need to be more conscientious of getting, second, third quotes. So we'll work on that so that we can get to, well, again, how will we use those funds? Will we use the rest of our money? We'd have to weigh that out of how we want to spend that. Because if we use, that's half the money that we have left.
Correct. Laura, do you have a particular feeling about that?
Well, I think our goal initially was to remove all of the tree of heaven that we identified. And I think there were, if I remember correctly, about close to 35 of them. Is that right? That was at the beach and the parks?
Yes.
Totally. So
I want to say half of them have been removed.
And then I think Joanne will agree with me, then it's the maintenance of making sure that those trees don't come back
Correct.
because they,
True,
We
and what we have, Laura, in the budget right now that so far has stayed in the budget, and I believe it will get passed, is we have the trunk remover.
oh, good. Okay.
Yep. So our guys, it'll be an attachment to equipment that we already have, and it will take away all those tree stumps.
So it grinds it down to soil level, or does it get the roots out as well?
I believe it gets the roots out, but I'd have to confirm with Sandy. It's not just chopping it, I believe it's removing it.
Oh, that's
Stump
fabulous.
grinder typically doesn't do more than just grinding the middle of the stump. It doesn't take out like the roots that are like surrounding it. Like at least that's when we had it done professionally by a tree guy. It just does like it digs down as to the middle of the stump that you're in. And then if there are any roots that are kind of vertical, I guess no horizontal, sorry, they don't get removed. They just stay in the ground because you would be taking out a lot of dirt around it if you did, depending on the tree system.
I'm gonna text Sandy while we're kind of talking about it, but
Well,
But if we didn't spend the money to remove the very large tree of heaven, how would you like to spend the money? Would it be to continue taking out the porcelain berry vines?
well, personally, I think we should focus on all those invasives that are located in that section.
Mhm.
And it's not that large.
No, it's not.
well, the other good news is that I have, Sandy said that he really wanted to get that claw, which would just go in and remove all that brush and, invasive stuff. And we have a small capital improvement, a small capital for $5,000 that's available for what we need it for. And I think that would be a good use of it. It's $4,800 for the claw, and it fits on one of our existing pieces. And it would make work much easier. We wouldn't have to pay for it outside.
Okay. So then we will have accomplished, in a sense, getting rid of most of the stuff in those 3 areas we initially identified. Then the next question is maintenance, as far as keeping that stuff from coming back. And also, do we want to do anything with volunteers in terms of going after some of those more accessible weeds coming back? You think that's a possibility?
That's a good question. I don't know how much physical labor we'll be able to find in terms of volunteerism. Maybe once a year. I mean, it's a lot to ask for a lot of maintenance. Am I correct in saying that, Laura and Joanne?
I would think so. I think it might be a nice event and an effort if at any point we're able to plant shrubs or something and then ask for volunteers to do something positive like installing new landscaping,
But
That might-
before you install it, you have to get rid of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
okay.
that's what we're going to be doing with the claw.
You had a nice event last spring with the Darien Nature Center that I attended, and I think some of you guys did as well. I know
Yep.
Susan
Yes,
Daly. That was
Susan and I were both there.
yeah, that was a nice event. I think everyone felt a lot of positive vibes from it. We could do something small like that.
Was,
maybe.
Something small. Yeah.
was that tied at all to Arbor Day or not? Obviously, Arbor Day is tree planting, but
No, it was, I believe Pollinator Pathway had gotten a grant and had purchased trees or had received trees, and that those are the saplings that are near the
right.
pond.
Okay. And also that the playing field as well. Yes?
The playing
All,
field.
well, the at Cherry Lawn,
Yes.
the soccer field
All the trees that are planted alongside of it.
that are right, the major planting that was done
Yeah, that one was done in September, I believe, and that's when we were kind of thrown for a loop because we didn't have individuals or volunteers to water. Is that what you're talking about, Mary Louise?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, and our guys ended up coming in and kind of saving the day because we couldn't maintain it without having them water the plants on a regular basis. So that was beautification.
Okay,
Who got a small grant? Laura's correct.
okay. Well, do you think we should try to plan some kind of volunteer activity, maybe late April, early May, to where you can see what's coming up to get rid of what's the park and rec guys haven't gotten up, and then try to plant something, come up with a plan to make it more attractive.
Might be a little soon.
You think too soon?
I think we're, Joanne, I don't know, what do you think? I think we don't know what's going to pop up this spring.
No, we don't.
Because we're still in the removal stage.
True, true.
Yeah, I think it could be a muddy mess and might not be so well received as well.
So what do we do? Just basically continue to focus on maintenance at Cherry Lawn and then start to move on to the other parks as far as the invasives are concerned?
Well, I think our guys, once it gets drier after
Yeah.
the spring, they'll continue, and especially if we get the claw, they'll continue the removal process at Cherry Lawn.
Okay,
For now, they're gonna stay at weed right now because it's dry. They're making great length.
progress.
Yeah, and progress. So
Now-
that, go ahead.
How do you plan? I know there were large areas which you cleared beautifully, but there are still things sticking up out of the ground which seem to indicate there's something that's going to come back up. So your people are going to continue to keep that mowed?
Yes, we'll continue mowing where we can mow. We have had mixed feedback on whether or not to put chips down. Susan had really recommended that we put chips down. The vendor and Sandy think it's going to make it too muddy.
Okay.
So I don't know who's correct, but I have to listen to the guys too in the sense.
I would
Go ahead,
love
Susan.
it. I would love it, Laura and Joanne, if you could walk down there and take a look at what we're talking about. It goes, I don't remember if you were part of that walking tour that we did last, I think it was spring, summer, early summer, whatever. And it was just so overgrown down there. Well, they've done a phenomenal job cutting back, comparable to what they did at Cherry Lawn, but really opening up whole areas. I didn't even know you could even see the sound from some of these areas, and now you can. So the question, but it's kind of you got dirt areas. So the question, I understand where these people are coming from, saying perhaps we should put wood chips down or something. What do you suggest?
And you're talking now about Weed Beach?
Weed Beach, correct. The area behind the paddle tennis, when you do that kind of that circular.
And
kind of a-
the only trees you took out were Tree of Heaven?
No, they cut back significantly the brush that was just everywhere.
Oh, okay.
You'll see it immediately if you walk down there. Walk around.
Mary Louise, I don't, what I was describing with the chips though wasn't at Weed Beach. I was referring to what Susan and I and all of us were talking about when we walked it, about adding chips. And then I
Okay.
got a mixed result back from Sandy and the tree vendor about the chips making the area muddy. So I don't know who,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'll speak to that real quick, why I suggested that. There's actually a lot of research on it that if you put 6 to 12 inches of wood chips down, it does suppress some of the seeds that are on the top layer of the dirt. And it also breaks down eventually, and it becomes, it feeds. These are arborist chips. These are not, you go to the store and buy mulch. These are chips that have been from healthy trees that will come down. And what happens is that it does break down. And if you decide you want to plant things, you know, you could do them on top of it so that, you know, you're not exposing that seed bank that's already there. And it also breaks down nicely. And there's a lot of research. I sent you the article, Pam, right? And I've done this at my own house quite successfully, to be honest with you, where the chips have broken down and I didn't have any weed seeds come up at all. Whereas we've just exposed all of this area to sunlight, and that has never previously had it. And now it's going to be muddy. And the wood chips also serves that purpose, because we do that when we do trails with the scouts. We put chips down so that it will kind of absorb, provide some of that material that, you know, it's not just dirt and water that comes down. It just, there's more something to like grab onto. And it's just like mulch that you put on your own in your garden, you know, that also helps. You know, it's the same idea, but doing it under these trees. Until we plant something new, we're going to get all kinds of stuff real quick. This stuff is very, I mean, the root systems haven't been pulled out in most cases, so they're just going to pop up as soon as water and light hits them. So that's why I suggested that. So that's where I was.
Right, and one of the vendor, from what Sandy told me, the vendor cannot guarantee that they would be trees that were chipped from natural trees. Is that what I'm trying to say? Or
Healthy trees.
healthy trees, or not invasive material either. So I think that might have been one of the concerns as well. But you, Susan, you said you know him pretty well, so maybe you could have a conversation with him.
Yeah, I did, and I've done it at my house. So it's the town also has wood chips that they put on the side. I don't know if you've ever seen it. They have a compost pile and they have a wood chip pile too.
Yes.
So, you know, I got to tell you, it's, for lack of a better way to fix this problem. This is a very, I mean, because we don't have the manpower to maintenance, no matter how much volunteer work you get. And if some of this ends up being, you know, these are large areas, way larger than the area that we cleared last, I think it was April, with the pollinator pathway group. So it's just not, I mean, we could blow our, you know, our budget just maintaining, let alone, you know what I mean? Getting to new areas by doing that. So I just felt like that was a good immediate, like a short-term way of taking care of that without, you know, I mean, even if we planted stuff there, things would grow into it and around it because of all the stuff that's under there, you know?
How about our two master gardeners here? Do you want to weigh in? Laura?
I was waiting to see if Joanne had something she wanted to say.
She's on mute.
Oh, okay. No, I believe Susan is correct.
Okay.
And you have to put something down. The wood chips would suppress it. In smaller areas, what you might normally do is put down cardboard and then put a thick amount of wood chips on top of that. The cardboard makes it impossible for the sunlight to hit the ground. It suppresses anything from growing that's there. It breaks down over time. And then once the cardboard is disintegrated, you feel pretty confident in your ability to then plant new plantings. I haven't seen how large an area this is, but it sounds like it's pretty large and that the cardboard treatment most likely wouldn't work. Short of doing a solarization where you put down sheets of plastic and again, trying to kill off any roots, weeds, seed that is down, thick layer of chips is the most expedient way of keeping regrowth.
I agree. I think chips would be a good way of at least not having everything come back so quickly. It'll come back so fast, you can blink an eye. It'll be in 1 week, you'll have regrowth. And I've seen Susan's chips, and they are very effective at her house. And as far as the cardboard, they've been very successful with that at the DCA in small areas. Maybe you could do a small area that you plan on planting and making a sort of a garden with, but I think you have to limit that to smaller areas.
And when would we do this? So if we can get the wood chips ASAP, is that better than waiting?
ASAP is the answer. And
Yeah.
it would be
Especially
the
with
only
this
way to
warm
do it.
weather.
And also the reason why the wood chips are such a great idea is, you know, you guys have some machines that could spread it very quickly over large areas. So like if you had someone dump chips or you got them from the dump, but your staff has done it for Eagle Scout projects. Like they'll dump a load of chips from the dump, like into a space. And then what the scouts had typically done is taking wheelbarrows and going around with them. But since this is a town project, you can use the equipment and spread it around, you know, with whatever they have. I think they have some tractors, whatever it might be. Right, you know, I'm not as familiar with all the equipment, but it's a big enough area that you could do it very quickly, but very few, you know, it's just the machine and your staff person. So that's why it's so attractive. Whereas cardboard, I've done that too before, and you lay it down, and if someone steps on it and it's wet, it's slippery. So it becomes a little bit of a dangerous item too, if it's an area that is being walked about with people. So that's why my neighbor did it next door, and it was not, and it didn't stay down. If you didn't have enough stuff on top of it, it would fly away. I mean, he had so many issues. I watched him do it, and I was
Well,
like, oh my God.
you need to put the wood chips same thickness that you're recommending. You would need to do that with the cardboard. It's just the cardboard is an added layer that.
Guess my point is it's added labor. Do you see what I'm saying? For the staff to locate that amount of cardboard. I mean,
It's a lot of
I'd have to
cardboard.
say
Well, it
there's
doesn't-
at least
well,
it's an acre there, you know?
Well, like Joanne had said, if you knew that there was an area where you wanted to plant, you know, a couple of spice bushes or something, and you wanted to do that next spring, then putting the cardboard down would, in that small area, would be effective. But because I would imagine your intention is not just to leave this completely open, that you will eventually want to plant something.
Yes, I agree with that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps what we should do is try to identify perhaps 3 smaller areas in that A section. Use the cardboard, and then for the rest of the area, use the wood chips. And
Are you talking now about
I'm
cherry
going
lawn?
back to cherry lawn.
Okay.
I agree. I think we could get that done. We just have to identify the areas. And then, of course, getting not only a vendor like one of the vendors that we use, but maybe our tree warden who also would have some ability to get chips as well as our own yards. So I'd like to be able to hop on that with my park supervisor and see what we can get done ASAP. And maybe what we can do from this call to the next, which would be in March, identify some areas before spring gets here.
Correct. And then if we can, would you suggest laying down after your crew goes to work on that C area behind the gardens, and when they finish clearing that out, laying down wood chips in that section as well?
Yes, but I think they're going to need the claw for that. And I don't know how quickly we'll be able to get that, but I did confirm with him today that we have the money and he can order it.
Okay. So normally, how long does that take?
It all depends on which company. So I have not gotten confirmation on how long that would take to come in.
Okay. So we should really continue to focus on the AB area, which they've already done the work on.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the other, let's see, I just wanted to go back one step only because we did discuss the tree grinder. And I just
The tree of
text
heaven
her.
for the,
Yeah. No, the stump grinder.
oh,
And Sandy did say that it grinds the stump into chips and debris that is then removed. So I don't know if that's helpful, but.
Yeah, so it sounds like it doesn't disrupt the root system. it gets the stump down to the ground level.
I think that's what he may mean, because I did say to him, does the stump remover remove most of the roots and the stump? And he came back with that, so I guess we would still have to be mindful of it not coming back.
But now that you know where it is, and now you know how to get rid of it, it will not go back to the way it was. You're not going to find in the
Oh,
same area
big tree.
35
Yeah.
tree of heaven.
Right.
We won't let that happen.
Right.
No.
Well, maybe we can put some cardboard on top of those. Cardboard and chips.
Exactly.
All right, so Mary Louise, do you want to move on to?
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to get a quote, or we haven't made a decision on whether we go after that tree of heaven down at Pear Tree.
I'm going to get another 2 quotes.
Okay. It just seems to me that since we're now starting to focus on both Pear Tree and Weed Beach, we want to make sure that we don't have any of the tree of heavens. You've done such a good job of getting rid of most of the tree of heavens down at Weed Beach. It's kind of a shame to leave one still standing. It's fairly large at Pear Tree.
Yes, I don't think we've gotten them all, but we've got a good
We're
chunk.
moving in that direction.
Yeah,
Okay, so we need to set a date for future meetings.
right. So I think we were all kind of trying to come up with whether the 7 o'clock would be good for everyone. I'm willing to stick with the 7 if it works for you guys. It's once a month. We could just, this one landed on the third Thursday, or third Tuesday of the month, because we canceled last week.
The one that
So,
was scheduled for the 7th.
right.
So
So-
do we want to schedule the next one for March 7th and go back to that original schedule?
Well, that's the first Tuesday.
Correct.
That's up to you guys. I don't know that we would,
Would you have
Yeah.
enough
right,
answers?
it's only 2 weeks, right? So why
Okay.
don't, in my opinion, I would stick with the third Tuesday.
Okay,
Does that work for Joanne and Laura?
It usually works for me unless I have a program at Darien Library. So if I have to run a program, I just can't go,
Right.
unfortunately.
That's completely understandable.
okay.
It's fine for me. Tuesday evening is fine.
And
Okay.
it works for me as well.
And I think Susan, like she's in Florida right now, she made it work for her for a little bit, so that's good. And again, we can be flexible. If something doesn't work, we can make a special meeting. But it's really nice to see that we have a goal here. And it's great to have the feedback from both of you. I mean, I should say all of you, Mary Louise, Laura, and Joanne. So certainly appreciate your time. And what I'll do is put together the list of meetings that are third Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And we'll get those posted with the town clerk, just so that we could stay legit. And
Perfect.
these meetings are recorded, so they will be on channel 79. And I will get that to him tomorrow.
Okay,
And we'll keep moving on.
terrific.
Sounds good.
And I really thank you for your input. It's very, it's very valuable. And most of us are just, journeyman gardeners, but when you have 2 master gardeners, it's really special.
It's all Laura.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're darn lucky to have both of you and really appreciate your time. That's why I'm to be really conscious of your time. So again, I think this was a great meeting, and we'll have a lot more to report on the next meeting. And have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Right, enjoy Mardi Gras.
Okay. All right,
Excited for
everybody.
spring. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
all right, thanks.